Biological timing is a central feature of all living things. Humans, plants, animals, insects, even single-celled life forms are all driven by this natural internal process. It helps us and all life forms to keep track of time passing, and by doing this we can keep ourselves alive by doing things like eating and sleeping at the right times. It also allows us to change ourselves in response to changes in the world around us. This ability helps us to stay alive longer and to be as healthy as possible. This ability to track time comes from within us, from our body's biological clock or body clock, which helps us to work out what is happening around us. For example, our body clock can be affected by light or darkness. These can make our body think it's time to sleep or to wake up. Your body clock also lets your body know when to do things like eat, warm up or cool down, get more liquids inside or lose some liquids. Your body clock works by lots of timers like alarm clocks inside us. These go off at different times and control many internal processes inside our bodies. These processes keep our bodies going and tell them what to do, from the basic things that keep us alive to how we develop and repair ourselves to our behaviour. We're just starting to understand how important this ability to keep track of time and use this to adapt to changes in our surroundings is. It affects whether we get ill, and if we do get ill, how bad it is and how quickly we can get well, or whether we die. Our research is helping us to understand how our bodies use their clocks and timers to respond well to all the many different bits of information we get given all the time. We have learned that things going wrong with our clocks can lead to many illnesses, including heart problems, brain problems, mental health problems, cancer, and many more. The University of Manchester is home to the largest biological timing research community in Europe. We bring together extremely skilled researchers across many different areas of science to help learn more about how our internal clocks work, and by doing this help work out how to prevent and treat problems with our bodies. To find out more about biological timing at Manchester, please visit the website. My name is Sarah Barton and I work for the Strategic Funding Team in FBMH.
Okay. Hello. So, yes, that's a bit loud, isn't it? Let me turn it down. I don't want to be too booming. So, welcome to an almost sunny day in Manchester. We've been having amazing weather in Manchester, and of course, then we have an open day and rain is forecast. So, back to business as usual in Manchester, which is quite nice. Just to remind you that there's no fire alarm scheduled for today. If we do have to leave, we've got exits here and here, and at the top there as well. When we're leaving the lecture theatre at the end of the talk, if I can ask you all leave by that door there, so we just get a one-way flow as other people will be coming in. Or you can leave at the top, but not that door there. Thank you very much. So my name is Dr. Ruth Grady. I am a senior lecturer in microbiology. I'm an academic member of staff. I'm also a teaching and scholarship lecturer, which means my primary interest is in teaching and education of people here when they come here at the University of Manchester. I'm also the academic admissions officer. We have 2 academic admissions officers in our school. So when you send your UCAS forms in, we head up the team with the admin support who look at your UCAS and make decisions about whether you can come here. So what I want to cover in this talk, it'll be about 40 minutes or so. I'm going to give you lots of information. You may have questions. We're happy to take questions at the end, but outside of the lecture theatre, because we will be having another talk coming in. So I don't know how many of you have been to the stands in the Michael Smith building. Have any of you been there? Show of hands. Yes, so a few of you have been there already. If you haven't, we do recommend you go to the Michael Smith building because we have student ambassadors there who are doing the degree programmes you may be interested in, and then also the whole admissions team as well. So they can answer your individual queries about your own circumstances. So there are ambassadors that can show you the way to go. It's just down one pathway through campus and you're at the Michael Smith building. So I'm going to, in this talk for about 40 minutes, I'm going to talk about, what do we mean by the biological sciences? Hopefully remind you and get you interested in why you might actually want to study them and why they're so great to study here in Manchester. And then I'll talk about entry requirements, I'll talk about the flexibility of our courses, and why you might want to change the course you do slightly from what it says in the UCAS documentation. And then importantly, I'll end off with thinking about what can you do with a degree in biological sciences? Where have our students gone after they've studied with us? So it's always good to start with a definition in science. Biological sciences include any study that contributes to the understanding of life processes. Now, other universities will call it different things. You know, we used to call it life sciences. Life sciences, some are more biomolecular, some biomedical, but we incorporate all of these disciplines in our degree programs. And we've actually got 15 different flavours of degree program that you can take here. And some will have more wider appeal than others. Some people may be interested in biochemistry because they like that mix between the chemistry and the biology. Some people are more interested in genetics, or they're more interested in disease, maybe immunology. And I'm here to tell you that whatever degree title you choose, whatever degree program you choose on your UCAS form, it doesn't really matter for us here. Any of these 15 can all lead to the same goal, and they can all pretty much be the same course that's taught in first year. And then you can choose at the end of first year. So don't get too worried. You know, and if you want to do more of these, you'd quite like genetics or microbiology or pharmacology, you only have to put us down once for one degree program. And that will count as one of your UCAS choices. Now, through the talk, it will become hopefully a bit more obvious as to why you might choose one over the other. So it's always good to think about why do you want to study this? I mean, you might like biology A-level at school because you fancy the teacher, which is a very good reason to study the subject, but it may not take you into the career that you really want to do. So, I mean, the reason why Biosciences is so great, it's interesting in its own right. You know, what's not to like about plants and animals and lovely cats? I'm a cat woman. Usually all my slides have got pictures of my cat on because I'm so proud of him. He's 16, but you know, there are other reasons why people like biology too. And one of them, and the thing we really want to get our students to understand when they're here, is we want you to be able to answer big questions in the world and rise to the challenges. And some of you may be coming into biology because you want to understand the world. You want to, you know, we don't really know what's on the bottom of the ocean. You know, we want to think about what's going to happen in the world with global climate change and food security. Can we grow enough food for the population, and can we make sure it gets to the right people who need that food? You know, so of course, lots of these challenges are not just biological. They're economic challenges, they're political challenges, they're engineering challenges. And we want our undergraduates to be able to take place on that world stage with having some really good biological knowledge. Other people may be interested more in human life and development. You know, can we grow new body parts? We know salamanders can. You chop off the leg of a salamander, don't try this at home, and within 10 days, the stem cells will move to that bud where it's been chopped off, and they will start to develop into a new limb. And after 2 weeks, the limb will have grown back as good as new. Why? What factors have they got in their body that we don't have in ours? You know, so people want to study that. Can we grow new body parts? We're very interested when the body goes wrong as well. Neurodegenerative diseases. What is happening in the brain? So anything that involves human life, that will have brought people into this subject. Infectious disease, like we've had enough of infectious disease, and all other diseases. Inflammation. We know inflammation is at the core of many systemic diseases that we see. And we want to understand inflammation really well and what's going on with our immune system. I mean, what's going on with long COVID? This has taken us by surprise, and we want to study this and understand it. We're also interested, of course, in diseases like cancer. We have units, that are totally focused on understanding cancer in our undergraduate program. And we want to think about new treatments and diagnostics, the pharmacology behind that are going to help people with these diseases. Again, that might be the thing that floats your boat. All of these are going to be studied whilst you're here in Manchester. But the main thing we want is for you to be prepared for unknown problems. What's coming on in the next decade that we're going to need bioscientists to work with the economists and the politicians, the engineers and the physicists, And so we all can have a role to play. And lots of these questions are being addressed here in Manchester. So we'll take a little diversion and think about research at the University of Manchester. We are a very big university. We're research intensive. We have lots of PIs, principal investigators, looking at research, and our excellent performance in the recent research framework gave us very good scores. You know, we are a good university doing this. And so you might want to have a browse on our research pages. It is a bit of a rabbit hole. There's lots of places to look at, lots of things that are really, really interesting. So, for instance, biotechnology, or the Cancer Research Centre. Our Manchester Cancer Research Centre, if you Google it, you can have a look at it. It's a partnership between the University of Manchester, Cancer Research UK, which is the largest cancer research charity, and also the Christie Hospital, which is an NHS Foundation trust in South Manchester. So we have the expertise here to do that research in finding out the fundamentals of cancer. And in our undergraduate programme, we try and mimic that as well. So we want students to understand things like the cell cycle, because we know cancer is when cell division, cell multiplication goes wrong. So we need to think about how cells are in their environment when it's going okay, how do they signal to each other, what happens when that signalling breaks down so that the cells keep dividing and keep growing, and then they may move somewhere else in the body. So we have people looking at computer models that are simulating the movement of cancer cells. And we also have people modelling with imaging techniques as well, so we can see what's going on. So a very, very important part of research, because we want to find cures for all of these terrible diseases. I mentioned biotechnology. We're at the forefront of a bio-industrial revolution. We've had the spinning jenny in the Industrial Revolution. You know, here in Manchester, we have a big heritage in that. But now we're at the forefront of this bio-industrial revolution. You know, we can't depend on fossil fuels. It's unsustainable. We need alternatives. And maybe some of those alternatives are in the bio part of research. You know, can we look at algae or yeasts? Can we manufacture them so that we can subvert their metabolism pathways to make fats and make lipids, and that can be used as a fuel source? Current research in our school, people are looking at the biomass of plants. Can we make them taller and bigger crop yields so we can maximise food production, especially in times of global climate change? The Manchester Environmental Research Institute, again, this is different parts of the university come together thinking about environmental challenges. We have people in our faculty here who are looking at the impacts of climate change on the reproductive success of migratory fish. Because we know that fish go to the same place to spawn, but if the temperatures are rising in the oceans, will they still be able to spawn there? You know, so our researchers go out and in the fields, you know, away from Manchester, looking at fish and what they're doing, and then bringing that research back into the lab. So looking at the structure of their hearts and looking at their cardiac muscle of these fish. So lots of really exciting environmental stuff going on here. So these are all research groupings that you can look up. The Centre for Biological Timing, which has the tagline for understanding the rhythms of life, which I think is very poetic. If you're interested in jazz or drumming, then you might be a little bit disappointed going and looking at it. Because, of course, we know that biological timing, you know, body clocks, you might hear it, circadian rhythms. This is how organisms track the passage of time. And they adapt their biology according to what time it is. And so this is why sometimes, you know, you're more likely to get a heart attack at certain times of the day. This is when our digestive system works best. You know, and etc. And we know that if our body clocks are not working properly, if they're disrupted, then this can lead to disease. And it can be disease like cancer, heart disease, you know, obesity, cardiovascular, asthma. All of these things are because our body clocks are not functioning properly. So we have groups here who want to understand the genetics. What are the body clocks? What is the genetic makeup of them and the DNA? How are they passed on? How can we manipulate them so that we can make ourselves better and well again? And so we have the largest body clocks biological timing research community in Europe, here in Manchester. And we're also interested in things like stem cells. I said about the salamander. and thinking about recreating body parts, repairing, replacing, regenerating damaged tissue using cell therapy or gene therapy and tissue engineering. So lots of these research groups, very, very interesting. If you think of a body condition, you think of a body part, you know, whether it's the kidney, the pancreas, the eyes, the brain, somebody here in Manchester will be researching it, and that research expertise can then feed through into our undergraduate programs. And who knows, you may end up doing your final year project with some of these top researchers in your final year. If you like something a little bit different, and you like science, but you want to look at it more maybe strategically, more societally, our Centre for Historical Study of Science, Technology and Medicine is a blend of you know, biosciences, medicine, and integrating with medical humanities as well. We're trying to understand the social context of science. You know, where's our science knowledge come from? How have we ended up doing science like we do it? So it's very important to think about that historical context and then look forward and think, well, where's our funding coming from? What's the policy around who gets funding to do which particular types of research? And what about the ethics? You know, just because we can do, should we do? So we have, you know, it's very good to team up with historians and, you know, humanities to think about society in that social context. You know, so if you're thinking about doing biology in science and society, you know, that's a degree program that may appeal to you. We've got the UK Brain Bank here, network here, centred in Manchester, that supplies human brain tissues that are used in research locally and internationally as well. And lastly, I'll end up on infectious disease. The Lydia Becker Institute of Immunology and Inflammation centres lots of different researchers coming together to think about fighting infection. We need vaccines for the next pandemic that's going to come. You know, we need to know what are the nasties that are out there, whether they're bacterial or viral or fungal or parasitic. There are research groups here in Manchester. So loads of really interesting science that's being done here. I hope I've managed to convince you that, you know, it really is massively important to study biosciences. It's interesting, it's worthwhile. So let me go on to then show you how we organise our courses here in Manchester. As I said, we have 15 of them. We have over 300 academic teaching staff. We take on around about 655 students in our first year, and they can be from any of our 15 degree programmes. We've no caps on the degree programmes, so we may only take 7 immunologists in first year. We may take 190 biomedical scientists. We may take on, you know, 60, 65 neuroscientists. So at the moment we have no caps on it. It'd be a bit of a challenge for us if you all wanted to do zoology, I'm not going to lie. But fortunately each year it seems to map out that we get enough of each one. And the way we can cope with having different size degree programmes is that everybody fundamentally does the same thing in the first year. So in the first year, we're going to give you a variety of all the different biosciences. So you do some cell biology, you do some biochemistry, you do some molecular, you do some, you know, infectious disease, microbiology. You know, you do. Ooh, is that me ringing? And you'll do physiology, you know, human biology, and then you'll have some options as well. So for some degree programmes, those units will be compulsory. For some of them, they're options. So this is where you really need to look at our website. And there are drop-down menus, and you can put in the degree programme. These are the ones that are compulsory for this degree programme in first year. These are the ones that are optional. This is what it looks like in second year. And another good place to go is to talk to our ambassadors and have a chat with them. You know, why did they do the different degrees? So as I say, it is a common first year. If you haven't got chemistry A level, or you're not doing a higher level in your baccalaureate in chemistry, one of your options, you will have to do the Introduction to Chemistry course when you get here. If you've already got your chemistry A level, then you don't have to take that chemistry as an option. So you've got something else that you could do instead. It may be that you want to take further chemistry units. You know, you're very interested in chemistry, and in biochemistry they would be compulsory. You know, you have to do chemistry units taught by the chemistry department. They're options for everybody else. If you want to switch at the end of your first year, say from biomedical sciences to biochemistry, you need to make sure you've chosen those units in the first year. And we give guidance on that. So these ones in yellow, these need chemistry, so you have to do the chemistry units. But biomedical scientists do them as well, and they find that quite easy. So it is very easy to switch. We get all our first year students in a lecture theatre like this one. I think the capacity here is 550. So if you want to imagine a year group of 650, so it's quite a big lecture theatre. We encourage all the first years to come and just think about, are you on the right degree programme for you? Does it feel right to be in a physiology degree? Or actually, would you rather be in a pharmacology degree? What do you want to tell your grandma at Christmas that you're doing? What feels good to say? And which one you're looking at the second year units and thinking, actually, all the units I want to choose are all in the neuroscience sphere. Well, change to neuroscience then. And you can also change for 3 to 4 year degrees as well, which I'll go into in a moment. So some of you may be sitting here thinking, no, I only want to study this particular subject. I only want to study neuroscience. But there is no such thing as just neuroscience, because you need to understand the molecular biology, you need to understand some pharmacology, you need to understand some genetics. So you need a good background in all these other bioscience disciplines so that you can become specialist in your subjects later on. And then in second year, the units become much more specialised, so the class size goes down, obviously, because we've got more of them, and the class sizes then get much smaller in final year as well. So I mentioned about 4-year options. So there are lots of things, lots of ways you can change a 3-year BSc degree into a 4-year degree. And 4-year degrees are very, very popular with employers. They like that people have got some experience. The main way people do a 4-year degree is this one here with industrial and professional experience. So this is where you do your first 2 years as normal, like everybody else. During your second year, you will apply for an industrial placement in a company. It may be a company that pays you lots of money. You go to the Mayo Clinic in Florida. They pay over $30,000 a year whilst you're there. And you're in the lab doing research. Or some of them may be more voluntary, so you may have your board and lodgings paid, but you're helping out in a zoo or looking at some research in the field. And some of them, may not have any salary at all. So we advertise these placements to the students, and you decide whether you want to apply for them and go for them or not. And then in your third year, you go on the placement, and then you come back and finish your 4th year, which is the same as everybody else's final year. But it's a very, very popular option. The entry qualifications to go on the 4-year degree with industrial placement is exactly the same as the 3-year degree. It just means when you're here, you have to get over 60% in your first and second year and not fail any modules. So there is an academic criteria to stay on the 3-year degree, which you may or may not reach. If you're on the industrial placement year and you don't make the grade, then you just go back to the 3-year degree. That's the most popular one that people do. Another popular one is with a modern language. And this is where your third year is spent in the country of the language that you're studying. So we offer it in French, German, Spanish, Italian, Mandarin, and Japanese. We would expect you to have an A-level in that language that you're interested in, unless it's Mandarin or Japanese, because not everybody has the opportunity to do an A-level in those subjects. So we would accept language proficiency by having an A-level or higher level baccalaureate subject in a language. And in your first and second year, you do all the bioscience core units, but then 40 credits, so 2 of your units will be spent in the language school doing the language. So that means because you're having to do language units in first and second year, and then you go on your placement year, which we guarantee for you, and then you come back in your 4th year, because you have to do those language units that are only available to people on the language degree, or the joint degree, you can't switch on to a language degree in second year or third year. So you have to come wanting to do it with a modern language. And it's the same with entrepreneurship. You do the bioscience units in the first and second year, the core ones, and then your optional units, you'll do a couple of units with the business school, looking at entrepreneurship or setting up a business, and things to do with marketing, etc. So you do those business units, and And again, you can't swap on to entrepreneurship. You can start on it and decide it's not for you, and then so you can swap off it, but you can't swap in and out of those ones. The most, actually, I think I've got a map of where, these are the kind of places where people have gone on placement, each of these pins. So lots of them are in the UK, some of them are in Manchester. You don't have to travel far afield if you don't want to. Lots of them are in Europe, at universities there. So this one here is in the Mayo Clinic in Florida. We always send people to Nevada as well every year, all over the world. And say we find the placements. You don't have to find the placement yourself. Companies come to us and say, we'd like some of your students. And then you apply, with a CV and maybe an interview. And some of these are in the sciences, so working in a research group. Some of them may be working in science communication, so they may be in a media company and it's doing medical writing. Or maybe in education, if you want to if you think you want to be a teacher, and you'll have 2 placements then during that year to try being a TA in a school to get some experience, which is really great for when you want to apply afterwards, because you've got this whole year of experience, which sets you apart from other people who are on the 3-year degree. So the last way of doing a 4-year option, again, you can apply for this via UCAS, is the integrated masters. And this is where you do the first 2 years the same as everybody else on the 3-year degree. Your 3rd year is here in Manchester, pretty much the same as the final year, except you don't do a project at that point. You do some extra skills modules to do with research, bioinformatics, etc. And then in your final year, you make a liaison with a member of staff who is running a lab, and then you go and work in their lab on their research for a whole year. So it's a really great way to try bench science for 8 or 9 months, really get to grips with some of the science, write up a report, really good entry then if you want to do a PhD. And now it's very, very hard to go from a 3-year degree to get a PhD position. Most places will either ask you to have this integrated master's, or you can do a 3-year degree and then do a master's on top of that, go somewhere else, or do one of our 1-year masters. So if you really are thinking of going into research, the integrated masters is a really good way of doing it. And because you're doing it here in Manchester, in our research labs, and we know what science you're doing, we know that the science is at a high enough level to generate it as a master's level qualification. Now, numbers are capped on the integrated masters, not in first year, but we'll take people in first year who say they want to do the masters. Again, you need to get a certain percentage mark to stay on it. And then when it comes to going after second year, then it will be the top 70 students that can do the integrated MSci degree. So that's the reason why you can either do the 3-year or the 4-year, and lots of different versions. Now, another thing that may make your mind up between, say, doing zoology or physiology is if you want to go on a field course. So we run lots of different field courses. They are compulsory to do at least one if you're a zoology student. They're optional if you're doing biology or life sciences. They're not available to any of the other degree programs. So if you think you want to go outside and like doing things in the outdoors, and you fancy spending 10 days in Costa Rica in the rainforests, looking at the frogs there and the butterflies, or if you fancy going to South Africa or Mallorca, the Italian Alps, and spending 10 days at Easter there. We've got one in Malaysia that ran this year for the first time, which was very, very lovely. We also have them in Manchester because they are compulsory, because there is a cost option. They do cost money. They are subsidised, but they will involve you having to pay some money to go on their field courses. But because they are compulsory for zoology, we also have some free ones that are in the local area here, so are centred in Manchester and the surroundings. So if getting out into the field is something you're interested in, make sure you opt for either biology or zoology degree programmes. Okay. So, third part of the talk, application process. So this is for 2024 entry. For most people, we'll have a deadline of January next year, 31st of January. If you want to apply for Cambridge or Oxford or medicine or dentistry, veterinary science, then you will have an earlier deadline of the 16th of October. please do check on UCAS website. I did check, but don't hold me to it if I've got these dates wrong. But early October. By January, we'll have had about 6,000, over 6,000 applications. The applications come into our what we called admissions office, that's the word, admissions, and they're looked over, and we just check to make sure that your personal statement looks like it matches the degree programme you're applying for. Are we looking for anything in particular on the personal statement? No, we're not. It's lovely to read evidence that you've done some extra reading and thought, oh yeah, you've taken part in this Olympiad, or you're very enthusiastic about this TV programme that you saw. That's nice to read. It's very nice to read about work experience, whether it's relevance to science or whether it's working in Costa Coffee, it doesn't matter. Work experience is always good. Tell us about your EPQ if you're doing one of those. That's always very interesting as well. They won't form part of the formal offer from Manchester, but it's very good preparation, I think, for doing that independent work. But we're not looking for anything in particular. And so I would say don't sweat it on your personal statement. We want to make sure that when you say you're interested in pharmacy and you want to do this, that and the other, you are actually applying for a pharmacology degree. So make sure it matches the degree that you're going for. If you are also applying for medicine and you've tailored it to medicine or veterinary science, then we will ask you for an alternative personal statement, and you will need to send that to us, external of UCAS, for us to consider your application any further. So we just want to make it look like you've made an effort in your personal statement. Don't lie. There are no points for having a certain amount of work experience or having a certain amount of extra reading. We just want to make it, do you look like you want to do the subjects? And we look at your predicted grades as well. And at the end of the day, your offer is going to be based on your predicted grades that your school or college have given you. And the offers we are given now, the highest offer we give will be 3 A's. The lowest offer we will give will be 2 A's and a B. And this includes 2 sciences, including biology, chemistry, which includes biology, chemistry, physics, or maths. If you're only taking one core science, but you're also taking, say, psychology, geography, or PE, we'll ask, the offer will be 3 A's. Okay, if you're doing 4 A-levels, we're only going to offer you on 3 of them. So for us, the 4 A-levels doesn't matter. We're only going to give you an offer on 3. If you've done different A-levels and you haven't done enough sciences or soft sciences, we could offer you a foundation year place if you've done more humanity kind of subjects. And our foundation year is taught at a 6th form college just down the road, and you do biology, chemistry and maths in 1 year and really get up to speed on those. All of our offers are subject to contextual offers as outlined on our website. So if you know that you can get to contextual offer, then you will either get a 1 grade drop or a 2 grade drop depending on the particular circumstances. Now, it may seem unfair that some people give an offer of 3 A's if that's what you predicted, or give an offer of 2 A's and a B if that's what you're predicted. We give you the higher offer if you've been predicted that higher offer because we want people to work towards getting the best grades they can. And we know that some people may take their foot off the pedal a little bit if they're asked for something a little bit under what the school thinks they can get. And then what happens on results day, on the Thursday in August when you get your results, we actually get the results on the Saturday beforehand. So we have them quite a few days before you will see them or your school will see them. And we look at all the results as they come in and, we find a place for everybody who's made the offer. If somebody's had the highest offer and they've dropped a grade or even 2 grades, if we've still got room, they can come as well. Pre-COVID, that happened routinely. The last few years with COVID and excess grades that people have got has made that very difficult. We're hoping this year and certainly the year that you will come, it will be more business as normal. And if you've got the highest offer and you've dropped a grade or 2, we can still take you. Of course, we can't guarantee it, but that has always been the case in the past. When you apply to us, whether you apply to us in October or you apply to us right on the deadline in January, you will get the same offer okay? So we're not going to wait until we get everybody in and then make decisions. We will make offers as the applications come in. And then from March 2024, we will invite people to offer holders day here at the campus. And we'll give you a tour around with ambassadors, so loads of chance to ask questions. We'll take you in the labs and show you some laboratory demonstrations. And, you know, a real chance for you to ask questions and make sure, as I say, you've got the right degree for you. And then we'll, you then decide if you want to accept us as first choice or put you as your insurance choice. And at that point, we'll have probably about 1,200 people who want to come to us. And we'll be looking for the 655 plus some people for the foundation year on results day. So that's how it works. So when you're here, obviously you're doing biosciences, typically you're going to be in a lecture theatre like this in first year, maybe a bit bigger. By second year, there'll be a bit smaller lecture theatres, around about 10 hours a week of lectures. Lectures are from 9, start at 9 or can go up to 6 p.m. in the evening, scattered throughout the day. Most of the lectures are in person. We expect people to come in for them. Some of them may be recorded and there's material for you to listen to beforehand, and then you come into the lecture theatre and do some activities in the lecture theatre. We're a practical subject, so we do practical work. Some of this will be techniques and things to look at online, and then you come into the labs and practice these techniques. The number of hours you spend in the lab will increase from, just a few hours in the first semester, more in the second semester. Then by second year, you're spending, a block of 4 weeks in the labs doing things. That means if you go on placement, you've got the skills necessary to go and work in a bioscience laboratory. You'll have a tutorial, not necessarily every week, but certainly every other week. And your tutorial, you'll be in a tutor group with 9 other students, so 10 of you with a tutor. And this is where it matters what degree programme you're doing, because your tutor will be from the discipline that you've applied for. So if you're interested in molecular biology and you're in a molecular biology group, when you're asked to write essays or asked to read a paper on a subject or give presentations, it will be in that topic area that the tutor is interested in. Whereas if you're in biomedical sciences, say, your tutor could be from any of the biomedical science disciplines. So there could be a cardiac physician, there could be a microbiologist. I'm a biomedical science tutor and I'm a microbiologist. Or they could be from biochemistry. So it's more potluck who your tutor is in first year, whereas if you're doing pharmacology, you'll have a pharmacologist as your tutor. So that might be a reason why you want to go for a more specialised degree title than the more general ones. If you at the moment you like all of the degree disciplines, then fair enough, go for the general one. Yes, and then there's all the self-study we expect people to do as well. So it's about 20 hours a week of timetable stuff where we think we know where you are and what you're doing. And then 20 hours of you doing your own work in the library or in any of the Learning Commons buildings we've got, or in this engineering building. If you wander through, you can see all the little pod spaces there are for people to, plug in your own laptop and do your own work here in buildings like this. As I say, this is the kind of week we expect. Go and talk to the ambassadors and they will give you the real story of what they're doing and what a real week is like. So, which, blah, 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 I'm not listening, I don't want to hear about. So I'll end off with careers, because what did you do with biosciences, or what have people done? And you can see on this lovely pie chart, we are scientists, we cannot finish a talk without having at least one graph or pie chart in. So we can see most people, well, not most people at all, that's ridiculous. A third of people, 35%, will go off and do some more study. So they've done a 3-year degree and they'll want to do a master's, or they'll want to do a PhD. So they'll carry on in the discipline of the biosciences that they're interested in. If people do a 3-year degree and then want to do a 1-year master's, the master's may be in a slightly different area or slightly more specialised in the biosciences, but they're carrying on with that studying because that's what they want to do. You see 14% are other bioscience jobs, so going working in NHS laboratories or commercial pharmaceutical companies that want people in the lab with lab skills. So a lot of people do carry on the bioscience because that's what they're interested in. A lot of people won't. A lot of 6% here will go off and do something that isn't related to the biosciences at all. They've been here, they've done their units, they've enjoyed the science, hopefully, enjoyed being in the labs, but they're glad somebody else is carrying on the research, and they're more interested in going and working for a company that wants a graduate with graduate attributes. So they're people who, the civil service, fast-track civil service, go and work for the Foreign Office, go and work for the Post Office, BT Openreach, all these graduate training schemes, become a management consultant, anything to do with accountancy, so that these are the companies that hire people, and what they want is the skills. They want people who can write. They want people who can read complex material and distill it down into a report that makes sense. And it doesn't matter that your background is in biochemistry. You'll be working alongside people who have backgrounds in history or who've done law degrees. They're interested in those skills that you can take into a new discipline and you can research particularly well. And that they will train you up then in those kind of jobs. It's really worth looking at our careers website to see the kind of events that they put on, and the employers come in and they think, yeah, we want graduates, and we don't care what degree you've got, as long as you've got a good degree and you can show you can work hard in your chosen fields. In between, we've got people who will go off and study maybe medicine as a postgraduate student, or they'll go and study to be a teacher, whether that's Teach First or do a PGCE. These are extra training that people do. So they may be taking their science but using it in a slightly different area. As I say, our career service has won lots of awards. It's the best UK university careers service for many, many years. And one of this is a function of our size. We have so many students. We have a lot of students, so employers want to come to us. We have lots of alumni, so people who've graduated, they come back and tell us about the jobs they're doing. And they can hold workshops then for people whilst they're studying here, so people can get inspired and think, oh, I never knew that job existed. So there are no jobs you can't go into with a biology degree. So some of our students have gone to work for AstraZeneca, the BBC, the NHS, obviously, National Trust, a Cabinet Office, working in the civil service. A student a few years ago went off to work in the Costa Rica sloth sanctuary, working with animals, doing all sorts of different things. So I'm going to finish the talk now. I said it'd be about 40 minutes, 45, not too bad. Get an academic with a microphone, we can rab it on for days. So I'll finish it here. It's very warm in here. I don't know what's happened to the air conditioning. I just want to go engineering building. I'm having words. But I do really, really recommend you go and chat with the students. They're very enthusiastic. They're here on a Saturday because they want to talk about the degree they're doing. And have a look at our Bioscience course web pages. Very, very useful for information. So thank you very much for listening.